Line podcast. I'm Louie Butko in for Bubba O'Neill. And on today's show, we're going a little beyond the Golden Horseshoe, down the QEW, after a quick stop at Duty Free, heading over the Peace Bridge, where we find our guest today, News 7 WKBW sports director, one of my favorite places in the world, Buffalo, New York, Matt Beauvais. Matt, I get a lot of weird looks when I tell people Buffalo is one of my favorite places, but you know, my mom was born there. I got a special place for that city of yours.
Well, that's always nice to hear, and it's funny because I tell people Hamilton is my favorite place in the world, so I guess we can just both kind of lean into that.
You're such a smooth talker, Matt Beauvais. Let's jump right into it, because the Buffalo Bills are 10-2. They just clinched their 6th straight playoff appearance, 5th straight AFC East title. They did it in style on Sunday night. How good is this Buffalo Bills team? Are they better than those teams we've seen in the past clinch the AFC East?
I think they are. I think this is one of the best teams they have ever had, certainly one of the best teams they've had in the last 5 years. The only other team that I think is close is probably the 2020 COVID season, which was a little bit strange, but I think this team might be a bit more balanced. I think that team had a better offense. This team has a better defense. I was not expecting this. I thought they would be a playoff team, but I did not think with all of the key players that they lost, they were going to be this good, this quick. It felt like this was going to be a year where they took maybe a mini step back and then a step forward next season. They skipped the mini step back. I think they're very talented. I think Josh Allen is the best player in the NFL right now. I think if I were a voter, he would be my MVP. And I think that they are clicking at the right time and they are good enough to win it all. That doesn't mean they're going to, but they are certainly one of the teams good enough that can.
I think there was a lot of pressure on Sean McDermott coming into this season just because he hadn't beaten KC. He hadn't gotten to that next level, the AFC Championship, the Super Bowl. Do you feel like McDermott is still maybe feeling that pressure, or do you feel like because this team is so good right now at 10-2 that it's not Super Bowl or bust for a guy like McDermott? And to that point, what is he doing differently to get this team, which may be less talented on paper, it seemed, getting the results they are?
You know what? The last thing you said is what I think it starts with. I think he is a looser, better version of himself, and I think the players are relating to that. I think for a long time, he has been very, very uptight and very about business, and he still is, but he's doing a better job, I think, lowering the walls a little bit. I feel like the players are relating to him more as a player coach. I don't think Sean McDermott was that guy before. I think Sean McDermott was the authoritarian. He was the one who was leading the way, and then the assistant coaches were the ones that were probably a little bit more relatable, a little bit more involved in the day-to-day. So I feel like it's a combination of he knows how to coach, especially a defense, and his handprints are kind of all over that. But he is now also finding a way to relate to these players, and I think they want to win not just for themselves, but also for their coach. And yeah, there is a lot of pressure, and if they fall short again in the playoffs, the conversation will continue to be, is he the guy who is good enough to get you over the hump? And until he does it, that will always be the conversation. But what I can tell you is he is definitely the guy that can get you into the conversation, and I have always been of the belief if you're in the conversation at the end, you're giving yourself a chance, and who knows what could happen.
I mean, the Dion Dawkins mic'd up moment from the last game, talking about how hard it is to win, the division, the the Snow Angels with Josh Allen on the field on Sunday. I definitely hear what you're talking about, a lot looser coach. Let's talk Josh Allen, because another AFC Offensive Player of the Week, his 14th. That's the most in Bills history. That's the most since he's been drafted in 2018. He did it all last week. What is it about Josh Allen, newly engaged Josh Allen, that just seems to have reached another level this season? Because it seems like he was good, he was elite, he was in that category before, but like you said, seems like he's the favorite for MVP. What is it about Josh this year that you've seen different?
The easy answer will be that he's protecting the football, but I feel like that's low-hanging fruit. I don't think that's why he is a new version of himself. I think he's a new version of himself because he is understanding what is asked of him more and understanding how to operate an NFL offense, which is extremely complicated. He is putting himself and his teammates in positions for success, so he no longer needs to make the superhero play at multiple points throughout the game. He knows that that's in the back pocket, and then he'll break it out and the final moments if he needs to, like he did against Kansas City on the run that probably sealed him the MVP. Before, we would see that periodically throughout the game, and I feel like when you take, the schoolyard mindset and just start throwing things at the wall, there's going to be more spectacular, but there's also going to be more mistakes. We don't see that right now. We see a very methodical, in-control quarterback, and then when things get dicey, that's when he starts to revert back to sometimes the old Josh Allen, which is not a bad thing. It's probably the most entertaining player in all of football. But they don't need him to do that all the time because they are balanced. They can run the ball. They've got a good defense. So what I think he is doing is I think he is thinking the game better, and I think he is making it easier on himself.
How banged up is he, though? I mean, he takes big hits. He puts his body on the line. We saw him the other day, kind of before he made those big plays, looking at that hand. That's been an issue basically since the beginning of the season. They got the AFC East clinched up. Obviously, the number one seed's within reach. That only bye week you get for being the number one seed now. Just how do you see them using him, keeping him healthy? Do you think we're going to get to a point where, maybe it's not Josh Allen, but the Mitch Trubisky show for a week or two?
If the number one seed is in play, he will play if he is able to. If that becomes out of reach, then I think they will peel back a little bit and probably just try and take this thing a little bit more methodically and be a bit smarter about it. But I don't think that the one seed is going to be something that is unattainable, and I think that it's probably going to lead them to playing their guys all the way through the end of the season, unless they slip up a couple times or the Chiefs, just continue to win every game that they play. So I do think that we're going to see Josh Allen probably for the next month, regardless of how banged up he is. He has always had an ability to be available, which is certainly important. He's also just built like one of my favorite tweets of all time is Mina Kimes from ESPN. And she said, it's unfair that the Bills have a quarterback who is actually just a buffalo. And I think about that a lot because he takes hits, he runs through people, he bounces off of them, he can frolic through the snow. It's just the perfect way of kind of describing him and his durability. So I know he's banged up, but I think his best way of resting would be during the bye week as opposed to during, the next couple weeks.
Let's go back to that game on Sunday. You mentioned the Buffalo in the snow. I've been lucky enough to been to a couple of those games, and it always seems like the Indianapolis Colts game a few years ago, the tailgate was fine. The tailgate was great. It was maybe trouble getting in, but it was like that half hour before kickoff where it started snowing and then just never stopped snowing. And it felt a little bit like that on Sunday against San Francisco. You got memories of these kind of games. You're going to hear people bitch and moan on the internet about, I can't believe they're not building a dome. But when you have games like that, Matt, a Western New York kid like yourself, what does it mean to the city, and what does it mean to get to showcase that to the rest of the football world?
You want to know why they're not building a dome? And this is just my opinion. This is not like from the team. They're not building a dome because I understand it would be far more convenient for the 70,000 people that are going there and the 5,000 people that are working there. But look at that and think about how good of television that makes for the entire world to watch. Everybody is watching that game and going, this is insane. I can't believe they are playing football in this. And every time the ratings back it up. The ratings for the Sunday Night Football game were through the roof. It was a 35-10 game that probably most people could have turned off at halftime. But they're like, look at this. This is nuts. I can't believe they're doing this. That's why they're not building a dome, because it is must-see every time it happens. And people love watching chaos, and they love things that are out of control. So, yeah, it would be convenient if there was a new roof on the new stadium and it was completely covered. I think they've kind of figured it out. I mean, most of the seats are going to be covered, 2/3 of them, and then the field is going to be open. So most of the people getting there might be tricky, but once you're sitting there, you'll probably stay dry, you'll stay warm, and then, the players on the field will be the ones that have to deal with all the snow. So these are the most fun games. They're the games that you remember the most. The Colts game that you just mentioned, I was still a photographer on the sideline for that game. My camera froze. It's one of my favorite games that I've ever been to, and I think when people go, getting there might be a pain in the butt, but you enjoy yourselves once you get there. And if you're that cold, have a couple pops and it'll warm you up.
Yeah, that's what the tailgate's for, right? Just by the time you walk in, you don't even feel it. I know you're tight on time. You got to get to New Era Stadium, but I do want to talk not this week coming up, but the weekend after. A lot of people are going to be hyping that game up. Possible Super Bowl preview. Best team in the NFC against one of the best teams in the AFC. How do the Bills not look past this game coming up this week? Because that is a big one in Detroit next week.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think they can't look past this game because you're going against a really good quarterback in Matthew Stafford. You're going against some really good skill players, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams. The other reason I don't think they'll look past this team is because there are so many Bills-Rams connections that I don't think the guys on the Bills will allow them to look past getting this Rams game because it will mean so much to them. Taylor Rapp won a Super Bowl with the Rams. They let him walk. David Edwards won a Super Bowl with the Rams. They let him walk. Von Miller won a Super Bowl with the Rams. They didn't let him walk, but he chose to come to Buffalo. So I feel like this game will have a little bit of added juice. The other thing, too, the Chiefs have a tough game on Sunday Night Football against the Chargers. There is a chance for the Bills, if they take care of their business, they could be going into next weekend with the 1 seed. So I don't think they're going to be looking past it. And once again, I think that's also a Sean McDermott thing. I think he has them coached up so well that they're really never looking ahead. Let me ask you this, though, because I know Buffalo and Detroit are, the two teams that probably most Canadians latch onto. Is there a sense? What's the team that's more popular right now? What's the team that people would rather see?
Okay, so our evening micro truck operator, Matt Ferrato, big Detroit Lions fan. My boss, our news director, also a big Lions fan. I don't even let people talk about other teams other than Buffalo. I just don't hear it. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's the Buffalo Bills or bust. And even yesterday in my sportscast, when I'm talking about AFC Offensive Player of the Week, I'm going to play back the clip with the touchdown, him throwing and receiving his own touchdown. So, I'm a Bills guy. You know that, Matt Beauvais. Listen, I wish we could talk Sabres because there's a whole other 30-minute conversation to be had there. But you brought up Von Miller and just what a season he's had. Just sort of a bounce back year. Obviously missing a bit in the middle, but you and I have talked about that too. Like I say, I know you got to get to Highmark Stadium. Matt, I really appreciate the time, my friend. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me, and I'm thrilled we don't have to talk about the Sabres. So
next time.
Feel free to lose my number if you ever want to talk about the Sabres.
Get out of here. I'll never do that. Beauvais, thanks for doing this, brother.
See you, man.
Awesome. All right. And that's your Sportsline podcast today. And as Bubba always says, we love talking sports. If you know of an athlete, team, or event to promote, Sportsline podcast wants to hear from you. Please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe button if you have something to say. And please comment. For everybody who helped make this show possible, including Laura Brody for directing, thank you. From all of us here at CHCH, I'm Louie Butko. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.